Chosen one, tonight isn't ordinary. Once it begins, something shifts. Whether you're ready or not, there are nights heaven marks quietly. No announcements, no warnings, just a subtle pause in time, as if the unseen leans closer. And if you're hearing this now, it's because this moment was arranged, not stumbled upon. You didn't find this message. This message found you. Something has been under investigation in the unseen, and tonight is the turning point where light begins to move what has been hidden in shadow. You've been carrying weight that few people ever noticed, questions you couldn't fully explain, battles you fought silently. You've tried to stay strong, even when clarity felt delayed and answers felt distant. And yet through confusion, through exhaustion, through nights where faith felt thin, you stayed standing. Chosen one, heaven has been watching the endurance it took just to remain open. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for a moment, hit subscribe, like, and comment, Amen, if your spirit is already responding. Because this message is about to speak directly to you, not to your surface, but to the place where truth has been waiting quietly to rise. Tonight is not about pressure, it's about movement. What's been stuck begins to loosen. What you've been carrying begins to release, not because you force it, but because the timing has matured. Think of it like a locked door finally opening from the inside. No effort wasted, no struggle repeated, just alignment clicking into place. This is the moment recognition turns into revelation. You start to see why things unfolded the way they did, why delays protected you, why endings happened without explanation. The confusion wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And now validation arrives gently, confirming what your spirit has known all along. You were never off course. Chosen one, tonight marks a shift in authority. Light begins to reclaim space that fear once occupied. Purpose steps forward where doubt once lingered. You may not hear thunder, you may not feel fireworks, but you will feel clarity settling in, like calm after a long internal storm. Stay with me, because as this night unfolds, a hidden truth is about to be revealed. And once it does, nothing returns to how it was. Chosen one, before anything changes on the outside, something always shifts within. Tonight's movement does not begin with events or conversations. It begins in the quiet landscape of your mind. A mental shift starts first, subtle yet powerful, like a tide changing direction beneath still water. You may not notice it immediately, but you will feel the difference. Your thoughts begin to slow down. The constant inner noise, the looping questions, the mental rehearsals of what could go wrong or what should have happened. They soften, not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because your mind no longer feels the need to stay on guard. Have you noticed moments lately where your thoughts pause, where silence feels safe instead of unsettling? Clarity replaces overthinking when your spirit finally trusts itself again. You stop interrogating every decision, stop replaying conversations, stop doubting your instincts. Instead, your mind becomes observant rather than defensive. You begin to see situations for what they are, not what fear magnifies them into. This is the difference between surviving and seeing. Chosen one, this clarity is not loud. It doesn't announce itself with certainty or demand immediate action. It settles, it grounds, it brings order where chaos once lived. You begin to recognize what truly matters, not what screams the loudest, but what feels aligned with your values, your peace, and your calling. The unnecessary fades into the background. You start to notice where your energy has been leaking, where you've been investing thought into things that never return peace, where worry became habit instead of protection, and without judgment, you begin to withdraw your attention. This is wisdom awakening, not avoidance. A mental shift often feels like relief before it feels like confidence. You may feel lighter even if circumstances haven't changed yet. That's because clarity reorganizes the inner world first. It prepares the ground, it clears space, and only then does life begin to respond. Ask yourself gently, what thoughts no longer feel urgent? What worries seem smaller than they once did? What truths feel obvious now that once felt confusing? These are signs the shift has begun. Chosen one, when the mind quiets, the soul becomes audible. Intuition speaks more clearly. Discernment sharpens without strain. And decisions no longer come from panic, but from presence. Tonight, this is where it starts. The mind settles. Clarity arrives and you begin to see what actually matters. Chosen one, once the mind begins to settle, the heart is next. Emotional weight does not disappear dramatically or all at once. It lifts the way dawn arrives, quietly, gently, without forcing the night to leave. This is where true relief begins. Not in forgetting what hurt you, but in no longer being held hostage by it. You may notice it first in your breath. A deeper inhale, a softer exhale. The constant tightness in your chest loosens just enough for you to realize how long you've been carrying it. Have you felt those moments lately where your body relaxes without you telling it to? That's not coincidence. That's your nervous system responding to safety returning. Old heaviness begins to lose its grip because you are no longer feeding it with fear or resistance. The memories are still there, yes, but they stop arriving with the same force. They knock instead of crash. They whisper instead of shout. And for the first time, you realize you can acknowledge them without being pulled under. This is not emotional numbness. This is emotional maturity. You are not shutting down. You are softening in the right places. The grief that once felt endless becomes lighter, more fluid. The disappointment that once shaped your identity begins to dissolve. You don't erase the past. You simply stop living inside it. Chosen one, emotional release often feels strange at first. You might even feel guilty for feeling lighter, as if healing means betraying what you survived. But hear this clearly. Your pain was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to teach, to refine, to awaken, not to imprison you. You begin to respond instead of react. Situations that once triggered anxiety now meet a calmer version of you. Words that once cut deeply now pass through with less damage. And you start to notice something profound. Peace is becoming your default, not something you have to fight for. Ask yourself, what doesn't hurt the way it used to? What emotions feel quieter now? Where are you no longer tense? These are sacred signs. Healing doesn't announce itself loudly. It reveals itself through relief. As emotional weight lifts, space opens. Space for joy to return naturally. Space for connection without fear. Space for rest without guilt. You realize you don't need to be fixed. You need to be free. Chosen one, this is what happens when old heaviness loses its grip. You breathe again. You feel again. And for the first time in a long time, the heart feels lighter. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger, wiser, and ready to move forward. This is release. This is restoration. And it has already begun. Chosen one, there comes a moment in your journey when the fog begins to lift. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because your spirit finally perceives with clarity. Tonight, this is the moment arriving for you. A decision that once seemed tangled, heavy, and impossible suddenly feels obvious. It emerges gently, like a sunrise breaking over the horizon, illuminating the path you've been circling in darkness. For so long, you may have avoided this choice, not because you weren't capable, but because your heart was protecting itself, and your mind was navigating the countless layers of fear, doubt, and what-ifs. Have you felt that constant tension, a decision looming, but somehow staying just out of reach? That tension begins to dissolve now, because alignment is calling you forward, and the universe favors clarity over hesitation. The confusion that once held you hostage starts to fade. You begin to see the threads connecting your experiences, your lessons, and your desires. Patterns that once felt random now reveal purpose. The hesitations that once seemed like failure now feel like preparation. Chosen one, what once felt complicated is suddenly simple, not simplistic, but undeniable in its truth. You may feel a quiet pull, an inner knowing that bypasses logic. Your body, your mind, and your spirit all begin to point in the same direction. This is not pressure, it is guidance. Ask yourself, which option aligns with the life I am stepping into? Which choice honors the growth I have endured? Which path allows my soul to breathe fully? The answers come, soft but resolute, from within. Clarity is not a storm. It does not demand action immediately. It whispers and it waits for you to listen. And as you pay attention, you notice that resistance has no real reason to exist. The weight that once made decision-making feel heavy now feels like freedom. You understand that avoidance was never the solution. Perception was. This is the gift of alignment. Chosen one, when confusion fades, your power rises. Decisions are no longer external battles. They are internal confirmations. You move from hesitation to certainty, from anxiety to trust, from questioning to knowing. Tonight, a decision that you've been circling will feel like it has always been waiting for you. You will recognize the path not because it is obvious to anyone else, but because it resonates with your soul's deepest rhythm. And in that resonance, the pressure dissolves, the fear softens, and certainty becomes your companion. You are ready. The fog has lifted, and the choice you were avoiding has become clear. Chosen one, there comes a subtle but profound shift that cannot be ignored. Your energy changes. This isn't dramatic. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. Instead, it comes quietly, like the first rays of morning sunlight brushing over still water, steadying the ripples and creating a reflection of something new. You may notice it before you even recognize it. A calm settling over your mind, a steadiness in your body, a grounding in your spirit. This is the energy of alignment finally stepping into your life. For so long, your energy has been reactive. You've been pulled in every direction, by circumstances, by emotions, by people, by the weight of expectation. You may not have realized it, but every decision, every hesitation, every fight for control has drained you. And now, chosen one, that exhaustion begins to ease. There is a quiet shift that doesn't scream change, but rather whispers reassurance. You are entering a space where movement is guided, not forced, where intention replaces compulsion, where clarity replaces confusion. Can you feel that subtle difference? That sense of standing firmly, without the need to prove your place or your worth? This calmness is not passive. It is not a withdrawal from life or a sign of stagnation. It is the unmistakable mark of alignment. You feel steadier, not because the world has slowed down, but because your soul has finally synced with the rhythm it was always meant to follow. There is a center inside you now that no longer wavers at every disturbance. You notice how your breath is deeper, your posture more relaxed, and your presence less anxious. That is the power of energy shifting from turbulence to stability. Not excited, aligned. This distinction is essential. Excitement is temporary. Excitement can be loud, fleeting, and even misleading. Alignment, however, is quiet, consistent, and deeply nourishing. It is the kind of energy that allows you to make decisions without fear, to hold space for yourself without guilt, and to move forward without chaos. Ask yourself gently, how does it feel when you make a choice from this grounded place? How different does the world seem when you are aligned instead of merely reacting? You will notice it in small ways first. The patience to listen without immediately reacting, the ability to rest without anxiety, the quiet confidence that you are in the right place, even if the path is not fully visible yet. These subtle shifts ripple outward. They change the way you interact with others, the way circumstances respond to you, and the way your own heart perceives safety and peace. Chosen one, this is a sacred transformation. Your energy is no longer dictated by external chaos. It is anchored within. You move from responding to life to participating in it from a place of grounded clarity. This is a rebirth of presence. This is the return to yourself. Feel it. Notice it. Breathe into it. Because once your energy changes in this way, everything you attract, create, and experience begins to resonate with the vibration of alignment. And life no longer demands struggle. It simply flows with the power of who you are meant to become. Chosen one of the most profound signs that transformation is underway is subtle, almost imperceptible at first. What no longer belongs begins to feel distant. People, habits, and thoughts that once held a magnetic pull over your attention, your energy, your heart, they start to lose their grip. You don't have to force it. You don't have to reason it out. You simply notice that the old no longer resonates with the frequency of your evolving self. For so long, you may have been drawn toward what drained you, either out of habit, obligation, or fear of loss. Relationships that left your spirit tired, routines that pulled you backward, thought patterns that replayed old insecurities. They had a way of embedding themselves into your life, quietly convincing you that survival meant tolerating their weight. But chosen one, your spirit is waking up. That pull is weakening. That noise is fading. Have you noticed moments when something or someone that once consumed you suddenly feels optional, distant, or even irrelevant? That is not detachment in the wrong sense. That is alignment, whispering, guiding, and liberating you. This distance is not coldness. It is protection. It is the universe creating space for what is meant to remain in your life. What no longer serves you, what no longer honors your soul, begins to lose emotional power over you. You stop obsessing over outcomes you cannot control. You stop seeking validation from people who never truly understood your depth. You stop repeating patterns that once defined your limits. This is freedom. Subtle, but undeniable. Ask yourself, which relationships now feel lighter when you engage? Which habits no longer carry urgency or compulsion? Which thoughts that once pulled your attention have begun to fade naturally? These are sacred signals of growth. They indicate that your internal energy has shifted, that your boundaries are strengthening, and that the universe is creating room for higher resonance in your life. You will notice a new rhythm emerging. Conversations that once triggered anxiety now feel neutral. Environments that once drained your spirit no longer hold power. Even the old narratives in your mind, the ones that replayed your doubts and fears, start to lose their grip. You find yourself naturally gravitating toward experiences, people, and choices that elevate rather than deplete. That is not coincidence. It is the alignment of your inner world with the greater plan unfolding around you. Chosen one, this is a sacred process. It is not abrupt. It is a gentle recalibration. It asks you to honor what has passed without clinging, to recognize what was necessary for growth without allowing it to remain a weight. And as what no longer belongs becomes distant, you realize something profound. Space is being created for life that resonates with your truth, for people who mirror your growth, for routines that nurture instead of drain. You are learning finally to move with discernment rather than reaction, to let go without guilt, and to step into clarity without fear. The world that once held your energy hostage now reflects the freedom that comes from choosing alignment over attachment. This distance is not loss, it is liberation. And as you breathe into it, chosen one, you feel the gravity of your next chapter pulling you forward, toward peace, toward purpose, toward yourself. Chosen one, there is a sacred moment approaching tonight, a moment where the next step reveals itself. It does not reveal the entire path. It does not hand you the map of every twist, every trial, every future encounter. It gives you only what is necessary, the very next move. And yet that is more than enough, more than you realize. Because often the unseen has been preparing you for this exact point, and all that is required is the courage to take one step forward. For so long you may have felt stuck at the crossroads of uncertainty, paralyzed by the enormity of what lay ahead. The future seemed like an endless horizon of unknowns, and fear whispered that moving without complete clarity would be reckless. But chosen one, that is exactly what the divine is teaching you. You do not need to know it all. You do not need to control it all. You only need to trust the whisper that comes when the next step aligns with your soul's path. Have you noticed moments when a small choice, seemingly ordinary, shifted everything, as if the universe leaned in quietly to guide you? That is the proof that you are ready for this rhythm of step-by-step trust. The next step is often subtle. It can arrive as a thought that feels persistent, a feeling in your body that nudges you, a sense of timing that feels both urgent and gentle. It may be a conversation, a decision, a gesture of self-care, or a boundary you finally choose to honor. Whatever it is, it carries more weight than you think. Because in taking that one step, you are moving with the unseen, participating in divine timing, and creating momentum that your past struggles could never have achieved alone. Ask yourself, what feels aligned right now? Where does my intuition guide me without questioning? Which small action honors the clarity and energy I've been cultivating? This is the sacred inquiry, not to overwhelm, not to control, but to illuminate the doorway in front of you. And as soon as you step, the universe conspires to reveal the next threshold, the next doorway, the next layer of purpose. Step by step, the path unfolds. Never too quickly, never too slowly, but always exactly as it should. Chosen one, this is not about perfection. This is not about certainty. This is about movement, the kind of movement that is rooted in trust, that is fueled by alignment, that flows from the deep wisdom your spirit has accumulated through every trial, every pause, every lesson. And with each step, you leave behind the inertia of doubt, the pull of old patterns, and the weight of hesitation. You step into a rhythm where life meets you in increments you can handle, guidance you can follow, and clarity you can trust. You may be tempted to look beyond the next step, to crave the entire path, to demand certainty from a future that has always been hidden. But chosen one, the miracle is in the step itself. That small, faithful movement, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual, carries within it the momentum to transform your season, to honor your growth, and to usher you closer to the alignment you've been seeking. So take the step, even if it feels tiny, even if it seems insufficient, even if the world around you is uncertain. That one movement is enough to awaken new clarity, enough to attract what truly belongs in your life, enough to prove to yourself that you can trust the guidance that has been waiting patiently all along. This is your moment. This is your step. And chosen one, it is more than enough.